Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped. Something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Yeah, I've just been. I had a pretty productive session with my parts yesterday. Talked to the cluster of parts around Observer, and I also got to know Agenda part a bit better. I feel like I have a hard time telling the protectors from the Axels they protect, but I'm not necessarily bothered by that because it's all working it out with them anyway, either way.
Right. That's awesome. You're doing it, and you're doing it your way, and you're finding those nuances and things that don't necessarily fit the book model, but I just mean, that kind of overlap of who's who and what part is this. And
I know Bill Tierney and those folks said that as soon as you get to know a protector, you're already unburdening the XL. You're already unburdening the XL at least a little bit. So,
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm taking notes. I mean, it's true. I hadn't put it so succinctly.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool thing for them to say because I felt like I had noticed some of that as well, but I wasn't sure what to make of it. So it felt affirming to hear.
Nice. Okay. Well, hopefully we have more to talk about in this conversation, or
definitely
talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, I want to get to know. I'm really just trying to decrease my stress levels and decrease my. Thank you, phone. Silence that. I'm trying to just get rid of some of this stuff that's these burdens that have been hanging around for forever, and I just want to feel. I want to be physiologically relaxed on a regular basis, not just constantly sort of this low-grade anxiety, because it's really hurting my health at this point. And so I want to do everything I can.
Okay. When you say regular basis, you mean frequently, not constantly, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand stress is a part of life.
Okay.
But like, I want my default to not be a strange, mild dread all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if it's parts related, then maybe we can help.
Yeah.
All right. I forgot to offer a minute of meditation. Would you like to do that?
Sure.
Okay, doke. I'll set a timer.
All right.
Okay. So are we focusing on that anxiety? The sense of dread, or are there other parts that you'd like to check in with?
I think I just want to move towards the parts that make me feel always guarded, always suspicious of something happening. Just always a little more tense than it really makes sense to be. And I think part of the reason I sleep so much is because it's the only way to get away from some of that tension.
Okay.
So.
All right. So it's there constantly.
Yeah, I feel like, so yesterday when I was poking around, I noticed that there seemed to be two sources of tension, two different parts, and it seemed like there was, so I have that one in my jaw and my like upper chest that's always anxious. And then I was also looking around to see what's in my gut. And at first, and I was in mostly in south, and I was like just waiting and listening for something, and I was sort of surprised to find that I wasn't getting a lot of strong messages. Things were just kind of comfortable. And then, but I did feel agenda part poking in again and again, prodding me and being like, when are you going to discover something? When are you going to figure something out? And I was like, agenda part, you have to settle down a little bit. And that's the only way for us to find something. But then I noticed that their attention was sort of going into my stomach and my gut. And I realized it was probably agenda part itself that was doing that. It got frustrated, and then it just like started doing stuff in my body, or at least that's what it seemed like. And I was like,
okay.
So maybe it was this one the whole time.
I'm curious, like, this might be hard to put in words, but how you noticed the difference. What was different about you in mostly self compared to agenda part doing it?
Well, self definitely doesn't need to push things, and itself can just listen, and it doesn't need to make up some interpretation. That's what I found, is that like a lot of times I'll have a part, probably agenda part, that always wants to make up like a potential response or hypothesize, instead of just sitting and listening. And the part gets frustrated after a while of doing that because it can never like confirm its theories. and it gets exhausted and tired of the whole IFS process. But if it just steps aside and self just listens, then it doesn't get exhausted, and we get real answers, or we get the answer that there's nothing going on, which is fine too. So yeah, I just noticed a feeling of like being relatively calm, relatively normal, like nothing in particular going on. And the gender part was unhappy with that. And then when it got unhappy, that's when I noticed something. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so it wants interpretations. It wants to figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
It wants some answers that, yeah, I can picture. They're on paper compared to maybe what self is able to discover.
Yeah, and another aspect of this is that I think the one in my head, in my jaw, is fighting a gender part. I think that those two go to war because because I'm definitely, when I'm dealing with a gender part's pushiness, I'm definitely not 100% in self. There's definitely another part that's like, man, will you shut up already and just like let self work? And that's definitely not self. And I feel like it might be, the upper body sort of anxious one. And I feel like a gender part's always like, go, go, go. And the other one is like, hold on, let's slow down and consider all the options. And I think they have some tension. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Should we start with one of them?
Yeah. Let's start with the gender part and see how far we get, I guess.
Okay. You've worked with this part plenty of times. So, well, first, do you notice it? Does it notice you? And how do you feel towards it right now?
I do notice it. If it's the feeling in my gut, then I do notice it. It's kind of a tightness, like an irritation, an annoyance. Does it notice me? Well, I think it's annoyed with me for not being able to figure everything out. But does it notice me in the present moment? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I don't think so.
Okay. You also said if it's the part in the gut, so there's some uncertainty about which part would be.
I feel like it's hard for me to know for certain what's going on with any one part. I feel like I get these little glimpses, but it can be hard to tell. And sometimes I wonder if it's like a part, like what if, like it could be a gender part that's hanging out down there, or it could be like, what if it's another part that's just bothered by a gender part's anger? Like, I can't say for sure. Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if there's I wonder if it would be helpful to kind of create another meeting place to invite a gender part to say, where would you like to meet me? And that could be in some fantasy place that's just right for a gender part.
Okay.
And you can kind of picture that rather than always just going with, here's where I feel it, and so that's where it is.
Okay. Where does a gender part want to meet?
Yeah.
I guess in the center of things, I feel like when I'm interacting with a part that resides in my body, they kind of, when I connect with them, I feel like they move closer to my heart or to like the center of my chest or something. I don't know if that's a common thing, but
yeah. Yeah, offer it that. Invite it. See if you can put out some nice snacks for it.
It is whatever responding to that. Yeah, I feel it like kind of moving upward and getting a little less tense.
And because you've done so much work with it, you know, I'm kind of holding back on some usual questions. So wherever you want to go with it.
Okay. I'd like to know what I want.
Yeah.
The answer, the closest approximation to the answer feels like it wants to be free.
Okay.
And there's kind of an idea of some like childlike energy, like just like bubbling playfulness, sort of.
Maybe that's something to lean into and to invite it even more in this idea of kind of creating a space for it, of like, okay, let's set that up. Well, let's just really envision and let this part show you what its kind of positive qualities and nature can be.
Yeah. Just getting a feeling of like having fun, like going out and playing as a kid, doing whatever you want and being totally absorbed in that and just like playing.
Any specifics? If this isn't helpful, let me know. I'm trying to paint a picture and create a space with this part.
No, you're good. Well, I don't think it wants to literally be doing like childlike activities, but it's more just having that feeling again of being free to do whatever I want that I had when I was a kid. And just being able to turn to whatever interests me without baggage, without, oh my God, am I going to be any good at this? Or do I have some other obligation to fulfill? Am I going to feel guilty about how I'm spending my time? Or do I have something weighing on me, which has been a common scenario, like ever since my ex died. That's been constant, that I have some sort of guilt and remorse and regret just weighing on me, sort of filling the empty space whenever I get a moment to myself.
Yeah. Okay. So it has this quality of, it is a curious part. It wants to explore. It likes figuring things out. Like it wants you to figure out your stuff, your parts, and it also sees that as how it would like to kind of spend its time, is in that state of being free.
Yeah, like when you're let out of school at the end of a long week and you run outside and play with your friends. That's the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this is agenda part or if it's agenda part's exile. It could be that, because I'm not getting any like figure it out commands, I don't think, from this particular part.
Well, if it's agenda part's exile, then where is agenda part?
Agenda part
Shouldn't it be here by now?
Well, I feel like agenda part is present, but it's just a little off to the side more so. Like there's a desire to dig deep into all this and figure it out, but I think it's learning slowly that that's not how it works.
Yeah. And what does it think about your process of digging deep from a place of self?
Well, it's a lot easier for agenda part to not have to make stuff up.
Yeah.
It just hopes that I'm right. I'm doing everything right, but it's just like, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Shall we go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
In which direction?
I want to understand like what keeps this part that has this playful childlike quality. I want to understand what keeps it from being like that not all the time, but like as much as it wants reasonably. Like,
yeah,
it feels like that energy isn't something I experience very often.
Okay. Yeah, just ask it.
Okay. Excuse me. I'm just trying to get like really connected to it again. And actually, the fact that I disconnected from it is interesting. I think it seems like just there are a lot of parts that come up and demand my attention and demand this sort of pessimistic way of looking at things. Like shame part is one that can take the focus off of this one. Even just something like, oh my God, I'm being too quiet for too long. And James is going to wonder what the hell's going on, even though like I was barely quiet for any length of time.
Yeah.
So it kind of gets pushed out, and it's definitely something to do with all those responsibilities as well, all the guilt, all the obligations, all the oh, I should be doing something else right now.
Is that what you're hearing from it now? Is that you should be doing something other than being on this call?
No. I think all my parts recognize these calls as productive. Okay. But in general, like if I'm doing something that's not, I don't know, like if I'm just sitting around doing nothing, or if I'm doing like a household chore, but sort of using it to avoid another one that I want to do less, or if I'm just relaxing after work and I don't feel like I had a productive day, if there's kind of this nagging sensation that I should go do something else.
Okay. Yeah. So the shaming part is basically saying that relaxing is not doing something.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be doing stuff.
I'm supposed to be doing stuff, and maybe relaxing is good, but relaxing is all I ever do, and I procrastinate too much. And
it thinks relaxing is all you ever do.
Yeah, basically. It feels that I sort of just do the bare minimum I can to get by and not have anybody notice. And yeah, that I would be more successful if I was doing more, and if I could manage to have passion about the things I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah. You were saying that you never feel relaxed, or that the anxiety is constant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never feel like there's a break.
Okay.
But it's nice having this part. Like I still sort of feel the energy of this free part. You know, every time I come into contact with it, and I feel that I have previously as well, it's at points I feel like it opens up a little bit more into my life, and at least makes me aware that I'm not feeling free or content.
Yeah. And what does the shaming part think about all of that? That notion that when you are able to relax and be with and listen to this part that wants to be free, that it does help it.
Well, there's the shaming part, and then there's the agenda part. And the shaming part is more concerned with immediate social interactions and like, did you say the wrong thing? So that one's definitely an issue, but I don't know if it steps in as often as just the agenda part being like, you should be doing something else, which definitely comes from like growing up and always being told I wasn't doing enough. And so I just have that monologue looping in my head, and I've just internalized the fact that there's to be no rest. But I think the agenda part is starting to come around, really, and starting to feel some sort of relief.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. That it doesn't have to be self, and that it just has a hard time believing that this freedom is deserved. But if it is deserved, and if it can be convinced of that, then it'll be more willing to let that happen.
Okay, that reminds me of a different part.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do wonder sometimes if some parts are more connected than I realize, or if they're the same, or I don't know.
Yeah. So these parts are saying you're not doing enough, And you've seen that, and I'm guessing any exiles have seen that self, it does what it does by listening, which yes, I'm sure from a very busy agenda parts perspective, looks a lot like doing nothing. Yeah.
It's like we got to be proactive, and that's all it's ever learned, is that you have to be proactive, and it doesn't get much of a chance to be proactive sometimes, even though it tries really hard, because it feels like other parts stop it all the time. So it's very frustrated, and it's been just pushing so hard for so long to get the tiniest amount of anything done. And so giving up that strategy, giving up what little control it has been a process for it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it would be useful, helpful to practice that with it. To, for example, go and listen with this exile for a minute. And like earlier you were saying, this part's saying you're being quiet for too long. What's James going to think? And so I'm wondering, like, if I go ahead and sign off on that and say, like, okay, that's fine with me. I mean, is there any, I'm just wondering if that would be useful to kind of like,
I think that is useful.
Let's try that. Let's try just listening with the exile.
Yeah, that will quell shaming parts fear.
And then after some time, go back to them and say, like, and you can say, like, okay, here's what I found or didn't find, and how was that for you, parts that are concerned about that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got my trusty minute timer here with me.
Okay. Are you setting it to a particular length? Like, what are we doing?
I don't know. It does a minute. So
okay. Works for me. We
can do that. Okay, you sure?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Was a minute.
All right. What I'm getting from the exile now is kind of I'm scared. And I feel like that has something to do with agenda part being present and being like, okay, let's figure out what's going on with the exile. I think it stepped in a little. And yeah, I got a reaction from the exile. Like, I don't know.
Okay. So now if you were to go back to the agenda part, let it know that you got some information from this exile. And yeah, just see what it thought about that experiment and whatever else it wants you to know about that.
Okay. So it is sort of still trying to run the show a bit. Still kind of blended. Maybe it is more tied with the shame part than I previously thought. I don't know, but I did get a slight sense of like, well, if I really can't be the one to deal with this exile, then maybe that's like that's actually like a load off my mind, because I don't know how to anyway.
Yeah, the protector's saying that?
I'm pretty sure that's what I got. It was very faint.
Yeah. Well, they have their own way of dealing with the exile, and that's by exiling it and keeping you busy or doing the shaming, whatever else, right?
Yeah.
So we can appreciate what they have done and needed to do. And yeah, just show them that you do have a lot of different ways of doing it, and in ways that they won't be able to.
Yeah. I think when shame part is rushing me, that's when agenda part steps in. In addition to it just stepping in all the time anyway. It steps in because it's like, okay, we need to figure out something now. And then paradoxically, I figure out less than I would have.
Okay. How are you feeling towards the shame part?
A little bit of understanding and a little bit of like, do you have to do this all the time? But definitely some understanding. I get it's just nervous.
And is it a shaming part, or is the part itself ashamed, carrying shame?
I would say it's more of a shaming part. It's warning me. It's like, watch out. You're going to be weird in some way.
Okay, yeah. And how are you responding to that?
Some of, like, it makes sense. And also, like, kind of a part going, well, if you would shut up, we wouldn't have this problem.
Okay, ask that part for space.
Yeah.
And maybe go ahead.
Shaming part definitely feels rushed and pushed, and like it, it's not like just rushed by other parts. It doesn't like what it's doing. It just wants to make sure things are okay.
And what parts are rushing it? I was under the impression that it was the one rushing you, but what parts are rushing it?
It's kind of a back and forth, like shame part, because ultimately when we're talking to an exile, every part except the exile and self slows things down. So it's kind of this back and forth of like, shame part comes in and it's like, oh my God, like you're taking too long. And then agenda part is like, okay, I'm going to figure this out, but you need to shut up so I can figure it out. And then like, and I don't know. It's basically just both of them getting mad that things are being slowed down for their own various reasons. Shame part is like, oh my God, you're doing this so slowly that it's going to be weird. And then agenda part is like, okay, like I'm going to figure this out, but you have to stop distracting me. Okay. And then shame part is like, well, you're not figuring it out because you're agenda part and you're not self. And yeah, it just kind of goes around and around.
And is the doing it slowly, is that like in the moment slowly, or is that like, oh, this is taking too many months and years?
Oh, that's in the moment. Like,
okay. And how was that part with like the minute of quiet listening experiment?
I think the solution might be that they need longer than a minute to chill out.
Yeah. Yes. I'm up for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe like, I don't know, somewhere between like 3 and 5.
Okay. How about 4?
All right, 4 works, and I can pull up like my own timer in my browser.
Would you like to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And you're welcome to, if you need to talk, like there's not any rule, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Great. Let me know.
And I'll just, all right. Thank you. Okay, that was interesting. That was really interesting. Yeah. So I was able to connect with the exile again, and it was definitely distressed. There was very much a feeling of like, mom and dad are fighting, meaning like the other parts in my system, the protectors. Like, they're fighting. It stresses me out. I'm upset. And it was kind of like I felt it sort of move up in my body like again. But it was kind of like almost like a slight pain moving upward. And it's interesting. As a kid, I did used to always feel like nauseous when I was anxious.
Right.
And yeah, it's just interesting. And I do wonder, like, if there's one part that I suspect of being connected to like my physical health issues, it might be this one. And I thought about that as it was sort of being active, and I thought about how parts can be so young that they don't know what they're doing. And I just felt a lot of compassion for this part that didn't, that if it's doing what I think it's doing, then it just, it just doesn't know. And I feel like I even sort of conveyed that to it a little bit, and it felt it kind of go like, oh no. And I felt a lot of compassion for it then.
Wow. And the pain that you experienced, how'd you respond to that?
It was very slight. Like, it wasn't a significant amount of pain. Yeah. It was just like a little hint of something. And so I just was like, well, there it is. I feel it, and I'm just letting it be. And I reminded myself that I'm listening to it. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Another 4 minutes or whatever.
If you like, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. So that time it was hard to get agenda part out of the way. So basically, but I did continue to feel the exile in there physically, and I feel it sort of moving up and down, and feeling that it was kind of upset, and but I just couldn't directly contact it because every time I tried, it was very much like agenda part being let's ask it a targeted question, or like let's tell it that we love it, and it's like that sounds great on the surface, but it's not. It can't be like a strategic thing.
Right. So it's just about listening and being compassionate. You know, when you were the earlier time, you listened and the compassion was just there. It's a natural response from self.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
But it was an interesting experience. So I like just experiencing these parts for what they are, because every time I even just see them in there, even when I can't do everything I want to, it's like more confirmation that they really are there, and
that they're incredible, and that they're
and that I'm not making it all up, and that they're intricate,
yeah. So maybe check in with agenda part about, you know, it seemed to be pretty cool in the first 4 minutes, and you could ask it to tell you more about what it needs, what it thought about when it didn't interfere.
It was just really wanting to see some more progress, to have something to show for those 4 minutes. I think Shane part was kind of pushing it, being like, you're gonna spend 4 minutes and then not have something to say. It's like it's almost like Shane part is like expanding its definition of what's, I don't know. It's doing what it does.
Yeah.
But like
just you know, to be clear with the shame part, like I am really okay with you not having anything to say. If we did 40 minutes, that would be fine with me. I'm enjoying my time with myself.
Yeah.
You know, this is nice for me.
I kind of figured as much. It's like, well, it's still good to hear it though, but like I kind of already knew that, but shame part like just does its thing anyway.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And if you didn't figure anything out, if you came back and said, I don't know what that meant, or I don't have any new insight or new strategies, none of that in my mind would be a failure or a loss or weird. You know, I would just be excited and admire what you're doing. It's courageous, I think, and we're experimenting, and we're and you are contacting this exile.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you.
I'm thrilled about it.
That is somewhat reassuring to it, I think.
Yeah, and we could also, you know, we don't have to do this now, but if you feel like it would be helpful in the future, we could go ahead and kind of plan for that too. Like let's spend some of our time every time, or at least make sure that that's on the table. And
yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, so that we're not having to reinvent it every time.
Yeah,
and get get past these protectors that are saying that that's weird or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What would you like to do now?
That is a good question. I don't know what I want to do, but I am noticing some like peacefulness from a part. It could be a gender part, actually. Like, I think aside from when it gets pushed by shame part, it is more and more internalizing that it doesn't have to make everything happen.
Yeah.
There's kind of a relaxing that I feel happening.
Yeah.
And when a gender part relaxes, it seems like the exile relaxes. And then I get back that feeling of like freedom. That's neat.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were in contact with the exile, I mean, you talked about being able to show it compassion. So I'm assuming you found that valuable and a good thing to be doing. Do these protector parts see that? Like, can you show that to them?
I haven't actually noticed them objecting to me interacting with the exile. They seem okay with it. They just seem, if anything, they seem intent on interacting with it themselves. But yeah, they seem okay, which is cool.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you might just want to reassure them that that what you are doing is what the exile needs, and that wasn't a waste of time.
Yeah, I guess agenda part is inclined to be like, well, if you don't see the results you want, then what does it matter?
Yeah.
And I definitely get that.
Yeah, and how many minutes might it take for this exile to share its experience with you, to feel like it trusts you and that you've fully witnessed it?
Yes, it could take any number of minutes. Yeah,
it could take quite a few. Yeah, especially considering how it's exiled, right? It's not been able to communicate with you.
Yeah, although at the same time, like, it's already got this playfulness. Like, it almost feels like one of those happy emotions that people talk about getting exiled.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, I definitely want to take my time getting to know it, and I'm not sure what the unburdening process will be like, because it does feel like I don't know. It feels like it has some anxiety attached to it, definitely, but also some playfulness and happiness that is already coming out. And it feels like a lot of it's distress comes not from its burden, but from parts actively exiling it. Because it seems like when they stop doing that, even for a second, it's like vibing.
It's happy to communicate with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay. Well, we will find out.
We will find out.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for playing, being willing to experiment.
Of course. Thank you for all your help.
Yeah, and if you have any thoughts about how to set up our next conversation, we can chat about that.
I'll let you know. I do like the timer thing. All right.
Great. Me too.
Right. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.